Welcome to Literary Journeys with River. Today, we bring you the summary of The Queen of the Damned, the third book in the Vampire Chronicles. Remember, this is just a summary, not the full book. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Also, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Comments are the best way to help YouTube recommend our channel. Let's get started. Prologue. An anonymous message written in a San Francisco bar warns vampires. Lestat has broken the silence. With his book, his music, and his upcoming concert, he has revealed age-old secrets. He has provoked the wrath of the immortal community and perhaps even older forces. Marius, the guardian of the first vampires, receives a terrible revelation. Enkel has been drained of all his blood, and Akasha has awakened. The queen, with her absolute power, mocks Marius and effortlessly destroys him, entombing him in ice. As he falls, he comprehends the horror of what has happened and, before losing consciousness, warns Lestat of the impending danger. Akasha is free, and her purpose remains a mystery. The fate of all vampires hangs by a thread. Chapter 1. Jessie watches Mekare, the mysterious red-haired vampire, as she tries to decipher the secrets surrounding the ancients. Elsewhere, Lestat, now a rock star, awakens dormant forces with his music. The dreams of Akasha, the first vampire, pull her toward awakening. From her marble throne, she perceives Lestat's melody and remembers her reign of blood. Mekare, deeply connected to her ancestral lineage, senses the imminent threat and prepares for the inevitable. Meanwhile, the oldest vampires perceive a disturbance in the balance. Marius, guardian of Akasha and Enkel, feels the shift in the air and fears the worst. Unaware of the danger, Lestat revels in his newfound celebrity status among humans, oblivious to the fact that his audacity has unleashed an ancient power that has been silent for centuries. Akasha, ready to reclaim her dominion, begins to move. Chapter 2. Marius watches in horror at the empty space left in the crypt of the kings. Akasha has awakened, and Enkel lies in ruins at her feet. The ancient vampire understands that the queen has broken her slumber and that her will is absolute. With an eerie grace, she moves through the modern world, drawn by the allure of Lestat's voice. Meanwhile, Lestat enjoys his tour, unaware that his fate is sealed. Lesser vampires sense the arrival of something powerful and retreat into the shadows. Mekare and her twin sister Mekare, separated for centuries, feel the echoes of the past calling them. Jessie, drawn to the history of the immortals, follows Lestat's trail, unaware that she is getting too close to danger. Akasha, fully awake and unrestrained, begins her journey with a clear purpose: to impose her vision upon humanity, no matter the cost. Chapter 3. Lestat continues his meteoric rise to fame, unaware that his voice has awakened something impossible to contain. His music echoes everywhere, drawing not only human followers, but also ancient beings who have remained in the shadows. Jessie, fascinated by him, seeks answers within the secretive Talamasca. There, she uncovers traces of a past that defies logic, revelations of vampires who have walked the earth for centuries. Marius, desperate, tries to warn Lestat, but the young vampire, enamored with his own image, ignores the signs. Akasha, intrigued by his arrogance, watches him from afar, contemplating his role in her plan. On a fateful night, she finally reveals herself to him, enveloping him in her inescapable power. Lestat, both mesmerized and terrified, realizes too late that his reckless game has caught the attention of the one queen who should never have awakened. Chapter 4. Daniel wandered the streets of San Francisco like a man possessed. After his encounter with Lewis and the vampire's confession, he was trapped in a world of shadows. Desperate for more knowledge, he obsessively searched for Lestat, ignoring the dangers of his fascination. Instead, he was found by Armand, the vampire of exquisite beauty and unfathomable power. Armand seduced him with the promise of immortality, drawing him into an ambiguous relationship of control and desire. Daniel surrendered to the allure of eternity, but the vampire refused to grant it, relishing his struggle between obsession and fear. Years passed in a perilous game, with Daniel traveling the world under Armin's protection, becoming increasingly consumed by his longing. In this macabre dance, he realized that his fate was no longer his own but belonged to the creature who kept him on the edge of the abyss. Chapter 5. Cayman awoke to a world both familiar and strange. Though he could not remember his origins, he delighted in modern pleasures: music, speed, technology. He wandered through cities, observing mortals, marveling at their ingenuity. Yet his existence was shrouded in forgetfulness. He knew he had once been human, that he had walked in the sunlight, but his memories were fragmented and elusive. As he fed, his body took on a more human appearance, but his mind remained trapped in a fog of uncertainty. One night, he encountered other vampires, and as he tried to approach them, his power erupted uncontrollably, reducing one of them to ashes. Horrified, he grasped the magnitude of his strength. That was when he saw her, the Queen. Her mere presence unlocked the memories that time had buried deep within him. Chapter 6. Jesse Reeves grew up surrounded by secrets and supernatural tales within the Great Family, a mysterious lineage deeply connected to the occult. From a young age, she felt an irresistible pull toward the unknown, leading her to join the Talamasca, an organization dedicated to studying paranormal phenomena. Under the mentorship of Aaron Leitner, Jesse delved into ancient records and files on vampires, including reports on Lestat and his bold awakening of Akasha. While exploring an old mansion in New Orleans, she experienced unsettling visions and spectral presences that unveiled revelations about her own history. The deeper she ventured into her lineage's secrets, the more she realized her destiny was intertwined with vampires and the imminent resurrection of a forgotten queen, whose awakening could change the world forever. Jesse discovered a diary in an antique wardrobe and, upon reading it, found it belonged to Claudia, the child vampire. The entries detailed her relationship with Lestat and Louis, her disdain for the dolls he gifted her, and her struggle with her own nature. Shocked, Jesse took the diary and a doll identical to Claudia, but soon her reality turned nightmarish. Objects and lights appeared inexplicably, and the phone rang despite being disconnected. A voice called her name. Terrified, she fled the house, sensing unexplainable presences. At the hotel, sick and feverish, she saw a girl identical to Claudia. After being relieved from her mission, she attempted to continue her investigation but was sent to India. Years later, she discovered Lestat's book and decided to attend his concert in San Francisco, seeking answers about vampires and her connection to them. Chapter 7. Daniel, now turned into a vampire by Armand, mingles with the disguised crowd awaiting Lestat's concert. The mortals, unaware of the real danger, celebrate the night, while Daniel marvels at his new nature. Hours earlier, he had hunted alongside Armand in a shelter for homeless youth, relishing the ecstasy of blood and the sensation of perfection. However, he still struggles with the brutality of hiding the bodies. Armand guides him patiently, though his concern grows with the looming threat over their kind. In the city, vampires hostile to Lestat have set a trap to kill him. As they approach the auditorium, Daniel and Armand sense an unsettling presence, a red-haired woman who seems to know them. Armand identifies her as Talamasca, and his fury becomes evident. At that moment, the vampire's meeting place bursts into flames, signaling the hunt has begun. Chapter 8. Cayman, an ancient first-generation vampire, watches from the shadows as Lestat arrives at the concert. He sees him radiant, basking in mortal adoration, unaware of the impending danger. Beside him, Louis appears distant, still oblivious to the chaos about to unfold. As Lestat indulges in the night's euphoria, Cayman senses Akasha's presence, the Queen of the Damned, awakened in fury and already enacting her revenge. She has set the vampire's meeting place ablaze and hunts those in hiding mercilessly. However, her plan remains a mystery. Cayman, having witnessed centuries of destruction, knows the twins' dreams have a purpose he has yet to grasp. As the concert approaches, his fear intensifies. Lestat, in his arrogance, has challenged forces beyond his understanding, and the queen is very near, watching his every move. Chapter 9. Daniel and Armand manage to enter the auditorium, swept along by the frenzied crowd awaiting Lestat's appearance. As they blend among the mortals, Daniel perceives the distinction between the living and the vampires. Among them, Lestat's enemies plot his assassination, concealing weapons beneath their clothes. Daniel senses the tension and hatred in the air but mocks their plan. Killing Lestat won't be easy. Armand, however, remains serious and distant, fully aware of the danger's magnitude. Among the attendees are at least 30 vampires, including a few ancient ones with immense powers. The energy in the auditorium is overwhelming, and the show is about to begin. However, none of the conspirators know that the queen has arrived in the city. Her presence is an omen of death, and as the lights dim to start the concert, true horror is about to unfold. Chapter 10. Cayman perceives an urgent thought. He must protect Jessie, Maharet's descendant. The young woman, unaware of the surrounding danger, moves through the crowd, determined to witness Lestat's concert. On the other side of the auditorium, Mail watches her with concern, sensing the queen's imminent presence. Cayman locates Maharet somewhere distant, attempting to warn her of the unfolding events. However, before he can act, Akasha approaches, enveloped in an aura of ancient power and destruction. Armand, Mail, and the other vampires present feel her, but don't know where she is or what she'll do. As the music starts and Lestat takes the stage, Cayman grasps the gravity of the situation. The queen isn't there to observe. She's come to change everyone's destiny, and her first move could mean the extermination of her own kind. Chapter 11. Jessie, obsessed with uncovering the truth about Lestat, strives to get close to him during the concert. After several failed attempts, she manages to grasp his cold body, tasting his blood on her lips. Lestat holds her momentarily, recognizing her with a mix of mockery and fascination. However, security pulls her away, pushing her off the stage. Dazed and awestruck, Jessie wanders through the crowd until a vampire brutally attacks her, throwing her against a wall. Her neck breaks, leaving her immobile on the ground. Amid the confusion, human voices comfort her as they transport her to a hospital, but she feels herself fading into visions of her lineage. When an unknown figure offers her their blood, Jessie begins to heal, not yet understanding the destiny that awaits her. Chapter 12. Daniel, captivated by the concert, observes how the attending vampires suppress their hatred toward Lestat, waiting for the opportune moment to kill him without leaving a trace. But Lestat, basking in his own glory, fears nothing. His energy electrifies the crowd as he sings about his fall and immortality. The adoration of humans and the fury of immortals surround him, yet he stands like a god on stage. Daniel, in ecstasy, feels that Lestat is indestructible, his voice a song of defiance. However, as the lights come on and the crowd goes wild, the enemy vampires prepare to attack. Armand, aware of the danger, grabs Daniel and pulls him toward the exit. They know Lestat is about to face the vengeance of his kind. Chapter 13. As Lestat attempts to flee the concert, vampires assault him with scythes and relentless fury. However, fire consumes them one by one before they can reach him. It's Akasha, the queen, mercilessly destroying them. The human crowd, panicked, flees as the immortals burn to ashes. Gabrielle, Lestat's mother, appears and drags him to their car along with Louis, forcing him to escape. Lestat, enraged for not having fought back, barely comprehends what has transpired. Cayman, watching from the shadows, acknowledges Akasha's undeniable power. Her fire is absolute, her will unyielding. The hunt has begun, and she won't stop until her purpose is fulfilled. Chapter 14. Daniel witnesses in horror as fire devours Lestat's enemy vampires. The mortal crowd runs madly, unable to grasp what's happening. Armand pushes him back into the auditorium seeking refuge, but vampires continue to perish around them, consumed by relentless flames. They know there's no escape, Armand grabs Daniel and drags him out of the chaos, leading him to a dark alley where they can hide. When the supernatural noise fades, both are enveloped in deep silence. They've survived, but the threat remains. Daniel, trembling, asks if Akasha will return for them. Armand, with a distant gaze, simply replies that the queen has ignored them, for now. Chapter 15. From atop a hill, Cayman observes Akasha's trail of destruction. Lestat has escaped with Louis and Gabrielle, unaware that the queen continues to hunt her enemies in the city. One by one, vampires fall, reduced to ash without a trace. Humanity barely comprehends what's occurred. The chaos is attributed to riots and accidents. Meanwhile, Cayman seeks answers. He calls out to Maharet, to Mail, but receives no response. He knows the queen has a hidden purpose, an ambition yet unrevealed. Lost in thought, he wonders why he's witnessed these events and what role he'll play in what's to come. Chapter 16. Jessie awakens in a bed, feeling weak and unable to see clearly. Around her, ancient oil lamps cast a dim glow over the room. The anguish of being trapped between life and death overwhelms her. Mail watches her with urgency, while Miriam observes coldly from the window. Jessie feels unbearable pain coursing through her body, dragging her to the edge of the abyss. At that moment, Maharet appears, moving with regal grace. Mail steps aside, and Maharet takes Jessie into her arms, offering her immortality. Jessie, amid visions of ancestral sacrifices, accepts the destiny she had always sought. The transformation begins, binding her fate to that of her creator. Between ecstasy and agony, Jessie drinks from Maharet and feels her soul merge with hers. Finally, darkness envelopes her in a deep sleep, sealing her new existence. Chapter 17. In the tranquility of Carmel Valley, Lestat, Louis, and Gabrielle enjoy a brief respite after the chaos of the concert. But Cayman knows that peace is an illusion. From the shadows, he senses Akasha's presence, lurking. One by one, the vampires seek refuge underground as dawn approaches. Without warning, the ground trembles and erupts in a surge of power. Akasha emerges from the earth with Lestat's limp body in her arms and ascends into the sky, taking him with her. Cayman's scream echoes through the valley, but it is useless. The queen has chosen her lover. In different parts of the world, ancient vampires awaken with the certainty of what has transpired. Marius, Pandora, and Santino sense the disturbance. History has changed forever. Chapter 18. Lestat regains consciousness in an unknown place, feeling Akasha's power coursing through his body. He is drunk from her, shared her blood, and his mind is flooded with visions. Akasha shows him the destruction of his kind, her plan to eradicate the undesirable vampires and begin a new era. Lestat, intoxicated by her power, struggles to understand his role in this destiny. She calls him her prince, her instrument, her equal. With irresistible seduction, she guides him through a ruined castle, his childhood home. Akasha reveals that she has heard humanity's prayers for centuries and that the time has come to answer them. She promises that together, they will change the world. Lestat, caught between fear and fascination, clings to her as they fly toward an unknown fate. Chapter 19. Marius, Pandora, and Santino arrive at Maharet's house, where Mail greets them with distrust. Exhausted and tormented, Marius faces memories of his past with Armand and the uncertainty of his future. His body has healed, but his spirit is broken. He meets Maharet, who, with her ancient presence and power, confirms that she always knew of him but never intervened. She invites him inside, hinting that they are all in danger. Within the house, Marius reunites with Armand in a moment of love and nostalgia that fills him with sorrow. Later, he joins a council of immortals, where Maharet reveals that Mekare, her long-lost sister, has sent prophetic dreams. The revelation is unsettling. Mekare moves with an unknown purpose, and the dreams warn of an imminent catastrophe. Maharet prepares to tell the story of the origin of everything. Chapter 20. Akasha forces Lestat to fly with her and teaches him to master his powers. She takes him to a temple where a vampire, Azim, rules over a cult of followers. With devastating power, Akasha destroys him and commands Lestat to kill all the men in the temple. Despite his initial resistance, Lestat gives in to the slaughter, discovering an unmatched power within himself. Then, Akasha takes him to a village in extreme poverty, where she reveals her plan to eliminate most of the world's men and create a kingdom of peace under her rule. She calls upon the women to rise up and exterminate the men of their village. Lestat, horrified, watches as her command is fulfilled. Desperate, he tries to resist, but Akasha's spell dominates him. She takes him in her arms and carries him away as the world plunges into her new era of destruction. Chapter 21. Maharet resumes her tale, describing how she and her sister Mekare inherited from their mother the gift of communicating with spirits. Their people respected them and considered them benevolent. She explains the nature of these invisible beings, their attraction to witches, and their role in human life. She also mentions that their people practiced funerary cannibalism as a sign of respect for the dead. The peace of their land is shattered when Akasha, Queen of Egypt, decides to eradicate cannibalism. To achieve this, she sends her army to destroy the twins' village and capture them, taking them to her kingdom. Maharet and Mekare witness the massacre, and as they are transported to Egypt, spirits try unsuccessfully to help them. In the royal court, Akasha interrogates them with growing obsession about their powers, and an enraged Mekare reveals the truth. There are no gods, only spirits that deceive humans. Maharet and Mekare feel Cayman's pain and despair as he is forced to fulfill his duty. They know they cannot resist without dying, but the horror of the act is unimaginable. Trembling, Cayman unties them and violates them, though in his mind he tries to escape into distant fantasies. After the assault, they are abandoned in the desert, where Amel mocks their suffering. Mekare drives him away, and with the help of benevolent spirits, they find refuge among the Bedouins. There, Maharet gives birth to her daughter Miriam, and together they try to rebuild their lives. However, peace does not last long. Egyptian soldiers, led by Cayman, capture them again. He reveals that Amel has possessed the king and queen, transforming their flesh. Maharet and Mekare, bewildered, are forced to return to Egypt, knowing the horror is far from over. Chapter 22. Lestat awakens in a luxurious mansion by the sea, feeling confused and disturbed by the recent killings. He explores the island, recognizing the massacre Akasha has unleashed and the blind devotion of the women who follow her. He finds himself surrounded by them, worshipped as a god. As they bathe and dress him, Lestat struggles against his growing thirst for blood and the power Akasha has bestowed upon him. Akasha reveals her plan: to exterminate most men and create a world ruled by women, free from violence and war. Lestat is horrified, but his resistance falters as he witnesses her immense power. Ultimately, he succumbs to his thirst and takes part in a sacrifice, killing 3 men while the women venerate him. Akasha claims him as her consort, and together they leave the island, leaving behind death and adoration. Chapter 23. Jessie wakes in darkness, tormented by a dream of blood and death. Not feeling hunger due to Maharet's blood, she struggles against the growing urge to kill. Emerging from her refuge, she finds Mail on the staircase, and together they ascend to the hall where the vampires have gathered. The television and newspapers report mass killings of men in various parts of the world, carried out by women who claim to have received orders from a goddess and her golden-haired consort. Maharet, in silence, presses a button and turns off the screen. Marius, furious, insists that Akasha must be destroyed, but Santino argues that killing her is impossible. Eric fears that doing so would kill them all. Cayman insists on continuing the story, revealing the connection between the vengeful spirit Amel, the twins, and the origin of the vampires. Maharet resumes her tale, recounting how they were brought before the king and queen, who, in desperation, attempted to control the spirit. Chapter 24. Lestat and Akasha arrive in Haiti, where violence and death rule over humanity. From the top of a hill, Lestat gazes at the world, overwhelmed by the suffering woven into the land's history. Despite the beauty of the setting, he feels trapped and afraid, knowing he is losing his will to Akasha. She insists that her plan will bring order and salvation, while he resists, remembering his loved ones. The queen mocks his nostalgia and questions his loyalty. Lestat attempts to persuade her to meet with the other vampires, appealing to her desire for followers. Akasha, with tears of blood, agrees but warns that if necessary, she will destroy them all. Lestat realizes that she needs someone to understand her, but she will never be able to truly control him. Bound in a final and dangerous connection, they surrender once more to the thirst for blood before heading to their final destination. Chapter 25. Maharet continues the story of her condemnation alongside Mekare. Captured and taken to the palace, they witness the transformation of the king and queen, now immortal beings with pale skin and luminous eyes. Akasha, desperate for answers, demands to know what has happened. Mekare reveals that a spirit, Amel, has become trapped within her body when she drank his blood, granting her eternal life but condemning her to an insatiable thirst. Terrified by her fate, the queen decides that the twins must die. First, she has their tongues and eyes torn out as punishment. Separated, Maharet wanders for centuries in search of Mekare, leaving traces of their story in caves and scrolls. Eventually, she discovers that her sister was cast into the sea and carried to an unknown continent. Now, with Akasha awake and spreading chaos, Maharet fears that Mekare's prophecy will come true and that the fate of the vampires is sealed. Chapter 26. Akasha gathers the vampires in a grand hall illuminated by fire. Lestat, Gabriel, Louis, and the others arrive tense, facing the queen's piercing gaze. Marius pleads with Akasha to end her slaughter, but she lays out her plan, exterminating most men and ruling a peaceful world led by women. Maharet challenges her, arguing that violence only begets more violence. The tension escalates until a figure emerges, Mekare, the twin from Lestat's dreams. Dirty and covered in mud, she advances fearlessly. Akasha tries to resist, but Mekare decapitates her in an instant. With solemnity, she consumes her brain and heart, fulfilling the ancient prophecy. Akasha vanishes, and the vampires feel the looming presence of death, yet they survive. Through tears, they gaze upon the fallen queen's body as Maharet proclaims the end of her reign. The queen of the damned has fallen. Chapter 27. Miami gleams like a corrupt paradise, and in Armand's villa, Lestat takes refuge in his writing, haunted by the memory of Akasha. Armand rearranges paintings, Marius reads in silence, and Pandora clings to her piano, lost in her own sorrow. Daniel, fascinated by the past, converses with Cayman, while Gabrielle distances herself, affected by Jesse's departure. Lestat feels the weight of immortality and the void left by the fallen queen. The Talamasca still lingers in his mind, especially David Talbot. In a sudden act of dissatisfaction, he departs with Louis for London, where they infiltrate the Talamasca headquarters. Lestat taunts David, tempting him with immortality, but the man refuses the dark gift. Amused by his own game, Lestat flees, laughing with Louis. The night belongs to them, the thirst remains unquenched, and the insatiable pursuit of excitement continues. Thanks for watching this summary of The Queen of the Damned. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with your friends. Now tell me in the comments, which moment was your favorite in this book? And which other Vampire Chronicles title would you like us to cover next?